You don't say no to a government contract, not one that pays triple your usual rate and comes with a non-disclosure agreement thicker than a phone book. They told me it was a subterranean infrastructure expansion under the Nevada test range, routine maintenance, they said. I'd worked plenty of classified jobs before. This one felt different, though. Everyone wore the same unmarked black badge. No names. No ranks. Just numbers. I was Engineer 47. They flew us in on unmarked transports, windows blacked out. When the doors opened, we were already inside the perimeter, Area 51. The real one. No sunlight for weeks at a time, just floodlights and the hum of heavy machinery. They told us we were building a new level, deeper than any existing structure, a containment storage facility. The word containment caught my attention, but I didn't ask. You learn not to. We worked 12-hour shifts in tunnels that smelled of metal and dust, where the air vibrated with the low thrum of machines chewing through ancient rock. The further down we went, the stranger things got. Temperatures dropped even though the geothermal readings said they shouldn't. The walls started showing odd fractures, veins of something black, almost reflective. One night, during our third month underground, I caught one of the supervisors watching the monitors. His face was pale, not from exhaustion, but fear. When I asked what was wrong, he just said, "Don't dig too far into history, son." I laughed it off back then. But now I understand exactly what he meant. We'd been drilling for nearly 4 months when the machine started, acting wrong. It began small, the pressure gauges flickered, the drill heads dulled faster than they should. Then the steel started to bend. Not from force, not from heat, it was like the metal itself wanted to twist away from what we were cutting into. The supervisors blamed it on electromagnetic interference. They brought in shielding, swapped out our equipment. Nothing helped. Every time we dug deeper, the readings spiked into nonsense, energy signatures that shouldn't exist outside a reactor core. Then came the day the drill hit something that wasn't rock. It didn't crunch. It didn't grind. It screamed. That's the only word for it. A sound that wasn't heard so much as felt, a vibration that crawled through the bones and made everyone drop to their knees. We shut down every machine, but the noise didn't stop right away. It lingered, echoing through the tunnels long after the drills went silent. When we cleared the debris, we saw it. A surface, smooth, black, and cold as glass. But it wasn't glass. When our lights hit it, the reflections didn't behave right. The beam didn't bounce back, it got swallowed. We tried to cut into it. Our diamond saws shattered on contact. Even the plasma torches just sputtered and died, like the material was drinking the energy. That night, half the crew refused to go back down. The other half, myself included, didn't have a choice. Contracts like ours don't end early. And besides, I wanted to see what we'd found. By morning, the site was swarming with people we'd never seen before. They came down in hazmat suits, no insignia, no names, just mirrored visors and calm, efficient voices. Our foreman tried to ask who authorized them. The answer came in the form of 2 armed guards and a clipboard full of redacted pages. We weren't in charge anymore. They called the thing we'd uncovered the vault. It wasn't a name that made sense, there were no doors, no seams, no visible openings. Just a colossal structure fused into the earth like it had always been there. When you stood near it, you could feel something, like a static charge crawling across your skin, except deeper, inside you. The scientists started bringing down instruments I'd never seen before. They scanned, measured, whispered. I overheard one of them saying it emitted a pulse, every 37 seconds, a faint vibration that registered on no known frequency. Another said the material wasn't listed on any geological record. One even claimed it wasn't from this planet at all. We weren't allowed within 50 feet of it after that. Still, I watched. Sometimes, when the floodlights flickered, I could have sworn the surface moved. Not like shifting rock or dust. More like breathing. Expanding and contracting ever so slightly. The following week, they shut down the whole dig site to civilians. We were told to stay topside, sign new non-disclosure forms, and forget everything we'd seen. But that night, from the surface elevators, I could still feel it, the faint hum beneath the ground, like a heartbeat that wasn't ours. It happened at 2:37 a.m. I remember the time exactly because I was writing a maintenance report when my pen started vibrating across the paper. The floor followed, a low, rhythmic tremor, almost like a generator coming online somewhere deep below us. Then that hum, the one we'd all been pretending not to hear, changed. It wasn't background noise anymore. It was speaking. The lights flickered once. Twice. Then the entire grid went dead. Total darkness. Someone shouted for the backup generators, but even they wouldn't start. The air got heavy, thick with pressure, like the tunnel itself was holding its breath. And then I heard it, not over the radio, not in the room. Inside my head. Whispers. Hundreds of them. Layers of voices all speaking at once, each in a tone I didn't recognize. Not English. Not any language I know. But somehow, I understood the meaning. It wasn't words. It was intent, curiosity. Hunger. Recognition. People started screaming. One of the scientists clawed at his helmet, yelling that something was inside the suit with him. Another worker just froze mid-step and started repeating a number, over and over, 37, 37. And through it all, the vibration grew louder. The vault, if that's what it was, began to glow faintly, pulsing in the same rhythm as that number. When the lights finally came back, 2 people were missing. The rest of us stood there, trembling, covered in dust and sweat, pretending nothing had happened. The men in suits arrived before dawn. They didn't ask questions. They just ordered the lower levels sealed. But I could tell, from the look in their eyes, they were too late. They told us to reinforce the tunnels, weld shut every access hatch, and pour concrete until the drills burned out. No explanations. Just urgency. But it didn't matter. The ground started to move before we were even halfway done. Not like a tremor, more like breathing, the concrete cracked before it set, the walls bending outward as if something beneath was pushing back. One of the engineers tried to monitor the seismic activity, but the instruments spun into static. All readings, impossible. Energy signatures off the charts, but with no identifiable source. Then the power went again. 3rd time that week. Only this time, it didn't come back. We had floodlights powered by portable generators. When we turned them toward the main shaft, the air shimmered, like heat waves, except it was freezing down there. And through the haze, I saw something impossible. The tunnel warped, steel supports twisted like paper, and the concrete floor rippled, as though the ground itself had turned liquid. Then people started disappearing. No screams, no struggle, 1 second they were there, the next, gone. Tools fell where they stood. Radios burst with a sound like distant breathing. When the rescue teams finally came down, there was nothing left of the main chamber, just molten rock, collapsed walls, and a void where the vault had been. They said it had imploded. But that's not what I saw. The shape wasn't crushed inward. It was peeled open, like something had left. The officials called it a containment failure. They sealed off the shaft with blast doors 3 stories thick and wiped every record. We were told to go home, forget everything. But how do you forget the sound of the earth itself exhaling? It's been 19 years since I walked out of that desert. I still wake up some nights with dust in my throat and that vibration echoing behind my teeth. I tell myself it was stress, that the whispers weren't real, but when the world goes quiet enough, I still hear them. Soft. Patient. Waiting. I've tried to move on. Took contracts overseas, built airfields, dams, anything that kept me far from Nevada.